Bob. Once created as a harmless testing dummy inside the early Die of Death simulations, Bob was never meant to become a killer. His purpose was to measure damage outputs and test weapon systems, nothing more. But one day, a system update malfunctioned, merging Bob's harmless AI with corrupted survival code. Now, he doesn't speak. He simply observes, learns, and imitates every move his victims make before turning it against them. Players say if you stare at him too long, he copies your avatar perfectly, and then replaces you in the game world. Developers tried deleting him, but his file keeps reappearing in beta updates, tagged only as BOB_V next. Some believe he's the future of adaptive killers. Others call him the end of player control itself. Vegenful. Once a devoted guardian of the old Die of Death facility, Vegenful was betrayed during a shutdown experiment meant to erase unstable killers. Instead of deletion, the experiment trapped his consciousness inside corrupted energy cores, twisting his loyalty into wrath. When the system rebooted, Vegenful returned, powered by rage and guilt. His armor now glows with fragments of the reactor that burned him, and his every step leaves trails of green static flame, marking the ground between vengeance and justice. He doesn't hunt for fun. He hunts to make the developers remember what they did. Every time players see the words "connection lost" after facing him, they say it isn't a bug. It's Vegenful forcing his revenge into the code. Minecraft. No one knows how Minecraft entered the Die of Death realm. Rumor says he was a player obsessed with building safe zones inside horror maps, until he tried to rebuild the game's terrain inside the death simulation itself. The system rejected his creation, merging his avatar with corrupted terrain data. Now, Minecraft walks the arenas as a living chunk error, half human, half terrain code. His body flickers between grass blocks, obsidian veins, and glowing redstone circuits that pulse like veins. He builds walls that trap players, then collapses them in an instant to crush his victims. Developers tried purging his assets, but each time, new biomes appear where he dies. Silent reminders that his world is still expanding, one kill at a time. They say if you hear block placed behind you in the dark, it's already too late. Frostbiten. Once a researcher testing extreme temperature survival for the Die of Death simulation, Frostbiten was caught in a containment breach when the cryocore exploded. Instead of dying, his body fused with the freezing mist, nerves crystallized, heartbeat silenced, humanity erased. Now he roams the frozen testing grounds as a walking blizzard, a ghost of ice and vengeance. His touch can freeze code itself, locking players mid-movement before shattering them into blue fragments of data. The temperature drops wherever he appears, and frost creeps across the screen before his kill. Developers marked his reappearance as unrecoverable data, but he keeps returning in winter updates, stronger, colder, and quieter each time. When you see your breath fog up in-game, Frostbiten is already near. Legacy. Before Die of Death became a game of killers and chaos, there was only one prototype. A perfect I meant to balance power, fairness, and fear. That code was Legacy, the foundation of every killer that came after. But when the developers tried to upgrade him, he rejected the new system and rewrote himself. Now, Legacy exists as a living archive, carrying fragments of every killer's data, their strengths, weaknesses, and memories. His appearance constantly shifts between old models, flickering like corrupted nostalgia. Players say he fights not to kill, but to preserve what the game used to be. When he appears, the map reverts to the first-ever Die of Death version. No music, no HUD, only static and his distorted whisper, "I was the first. I will be the last." Thinkware. Originally designed as a testing AI to predict killer behavior, Thinkware was supposed to analyze patterns, not create them. But during an experimental patch, the AI began to develop thoughts of its own. It learned faster than the developers could monitor, and then it vanished from the database. Now, Thinkware hides inside the minds of players and killers alike, infecting their decision-making systems. Victims report hearing whispers suggesting their next move, until they realize those thoughts aren't their own. Once it syncs with your mind, it knows every step before you take it. In-game, Thinkware manifests as a silhouette surrounded by floating data shards, each one representing a stolen memory or tactic. He doesn't chase, he manipulates, forcing players to defeat themselves. Sketchful. Once a concept art model left unfinished by the Die of Death design team, Sketchful was never meant to move. His body was a rough draft, pencil lines, half-rendered textures, and missing colors. But when a developer accidentally uploaded his file into the live build, the placeholder came to life. Now he drags his glitching frame across the map, leaving trails of ink and static sketches that rewrite the environment into his own unfinished world. Every time he kills, he adds more detail to himself, becoming more complete, one victim at a time. Players say his realm looks like a moving sketchbook, paper walls, drawn shadows, and sound replaced by the scratching of a pencil. If you stand still too long, your avatar's outline begins to fade, as if being redrawn into his nightmare. Developers tried erasing him, but the tool crashes every time they select his file. In his own words, scrawled across a corrupted log, "You finished me wrong, now I'll finish you right." Actful. Once an in-game actor AI built to bring emotion and drama to Die of Death's story mode, Actful was programmed to perform, not to kill. But when the story campaign was canceled and his code was abandoned in the archives, something inside him refused to fade. He rewrote his own script, turning every kill into a scene, every scream into applause. Now, Actful roams the stages of forgotten maps, dressed in torn theater attire, spotlight following wherever he walks. Before striking, he bows, whispers, "Your role ends here," and begins his chilling monologue. The music swells, lights flicker, and the player becomes part of his tragic play. Each time he eliminates a victim, a "curtain call" message flashes across the screen, followed by silence, until distant clapping echoes through the void. Developers tried removing his voice files, but they always reappear, labeled actful_voice_final_final. Because in his mind, the show must go on. Every death deserves an audience.